A new drug has been hailed as a turning point in the fight against Alzheimer's. Phase 3 clinical trials of Donanemab showed that the drug can slow down cognitive decline by up to 35% if the disease is detected early. The question now, of course, is whether the National Health Service can provide that early detection. I'm joined now by Jessica Tobin from Alzheimer's Research UK, who have said today that we are entering a new era where Alzheimer's disease could become treatable. Jessica, your reaction to this announcement today?
Hi there, thanks for having me. Obviously, this is a really exciting bit of news, and it's the second drug that we've seen this year that's been shown to actually slow down cognitive decline. It's relatively modest, the results, but this is massive for people living with dementia and their families, and it is the first kind of gateway to future drug developments. So that translates to about 4 months of delay of symptoms, which for people living with dementia, that means they can stay independent for longer, and it's really huge news. It's really exciting.
So this is a huge step forward for people with early stage Alzheimer's. And when you talk about that, the key to that is early diagnosis. And that's going to be a barrier, particularly in the UK, because Jessica, you can outline for us how difficult it is for people to get that early diagnosis at the moment on the National Health Service.
Yeah, of course, it's really difficult. So on average, people are waiting about 2 years at the moment for an Alzheimer's disease diagnosis, and people that are under the age of 65 can be waiting up to 4 years. So when we're looking at people that are currently eligible for the disease, is people with something called mild cognitive impairment, which we call MCI, due to Alzheimer's disease, or those very early stages. And so at the moment, because the process is so long, we're needing to look at other areas. So we're funding Alzheimer's Research UK and the development of new potential blood tests, which could potentially be rolled out in as little as 5 years. So there's massive steps of progress that are being made in treatment as well as diagnosis. And it all seems to be going in the right direction, which is really promising.
Yeah, this is a really good news. And in terms of where treatment goes next, we know that drugs of this kind have been used successfully in America, but again, it is all about access. And, you know, it's not just about early diagnosis, it's also about cost as well. Could you give us an idea of the costs implicated in this kind of treatment?
Yeah, so because it's so difficult for us to actually know how many people are going to be eligible for this treatment, it needs to go through regulatory approval in the UK at the moment. We don't yet know the full implications of the cost. So not only will we have to pay for the drug, we'll have to set up the right infrastructure. So that's PET scanners, ongoing kind of checking that people are responding well to the drug, and also staffing costs and clinics. So there's an awful lot of work that needs to go into this, looking at how much rolling out something like this would cost.
Can you give us an idea about the clinical trial that was involved in showing this drug can slow decline by up to 35%? I mean, it means that people with the disease can perform day-to-day tasks, shopping, housekeeping, managing finances, and taking their own medication. Talk to me about the clinical trials and what it showed it could do.
Yeah, so the trial looked at about 1,700 participants. So they separated the group into people that would be the control group. So they'd be taking the drug, and then a placebo group. So what they do is they had a monthly infusion of the drug, and then they have regular monitoring. So they'll stop the drug as soon as the amyloid, which is the protein involved in the disease, reaches a certain threshold. And then they'll basically check by doing regular kind of cognitive tests to see whether there's that cognitive decline. So that's kind of how they measure the primary outcomes, and it's very similar in terms of the results that we've got to the drug that also came out earlier this year, lecanemab. So it is very modest, but like I said, this is one of the first disease modifying treatments for Alzheimer's disease, which is huge. It's something that the field's been working towards for years, and it's really exciting. We're all really excited here at Alzheimer's Research UK that this is happening. It feels like a new dawn for treatment.
Yeah, it's a massive breakthrough and will give hope to so many families, perhaps not those who are living with the early stages now, but, you know, we do know that it can be hereditary. There's a history of it in families. So this is really hopeful for those families who are going through that at the moment. In terms of how this drug is administered and how long you could be on it for, can you give us an idea of that?
Yeah, of course. So the drug is administered by intravenous injection. So it's kind of similar to when people go on chemotherapy. So it would depend how well the protein amyloid is cleared from your brain, depending on how long you would be on it for. So in this clinical trial, they actually stopped giving people the drug once they felt that amyloid threshold was low enough. And then they looked at whether that still worked, basically. So we're hearing results now about how well the clinical trial went, which should be able to predict how long people will need to be on there for. Obviously, we don't know long term whether people would need to continue having the drug after a couple of years down the line. That's all to kind of be established at the moment.
Yeah, well, the hard knocks work isn't over, is it? In terms of we've got this breakthrough, we've talked about the difficulties, even though, you know, there is this new drug that is proving to have an effect. It's early diagnosis, it's the money to get more scanners to get early diagnosis, it's the regulation, it's the money to get the drug. But there is hope that, you know, much like we've seen the transformation in cancer treatment in recent decades, you know, we could be on the same path here with dementia. Can you tell us what that might look like?
Yeah, exactly. So we've known for years that Alzheimer's disease just unfortunately hasn't got the same investment that other diseases like cancer does. And that's not at all to say that diseases like cancer don't deserve the level of investment that they're getting. But in the Alzheimer's disease field, about 1 in 4 of the number of researchers that we have, cancer has 4 times the number. And that's just not been good enough. But we're slowly starting to see a change. We're starting to see greater investment. And so we're hoping now that we've got the first set of drugs that it's all going to go up from here.
Jessica, thank you so much for talking to us. I know Alzheimer's Research UK has already written to the manufacturer of this new drug, asking them to put forward Donanemab for regulatory review in the UK without delay. This should be treated as a priority. Jessica, thank you so much.